Well, welcome to our show this week, and it is a big week. Joining me, as always, is the Hall of Famer Ray Corbett. I'm Kevin Rao. And Ray, this week we talked to two more coaches. You know a lot of people, as it turns out, and we'll have them coming up. And I know we want to talk to them about how their squads are doing. And interestingly, one of those is Ramon Spears, whose teams are just a little bit above 500, but that's a pretty good squad. And I'm looking forward to our conversation with them. And then you're also talking, we'll talk to Zach Fleer this week, which we're looking forward to. I think he wants to turn the tables on you, so we're looking forward to that. But also, your good buddy Tim Casey going to be on here, and a guy we did a long interview with earlier this summer, and we'll talk to him about his squad. But I know you're looking forward to all that.
Well, yeah, we've been extremely fortunate. We're getting some great people in here, and Coach Casey at New Albany, boy, he's got a big one. I don't know how you deal with this one. He's got Upper Arlington coming his way Tuesday night, and for Coach, his family is extremely important. His son, a senior, is going to be starting at the point for Upper Arlington. I'm not sure if he loses the game, whether or not he's more welcome at home or whether or not if he wins the game. And the thing is, his boy and he are both pretty much cut from the same cloth. Very competitive people.
In the summer, he called him crazy, I think is the way he referred to him.
Well,
as a father does.
Right.
Yes.
You get to know Tim, you might that term might come out of your lips a few times as well. Okay. But outstanding coach, outstanding person, a molder of young men. He's just doing a fabulous job, and he's got them going at New Albany right now.
Yeah, he does. And just to remind people, we taped that part of our program today before the game. So that's why we'll talk about that as coming up. But yeah, for sure. And then Ramon Spears, I know he's a coach that you like.
I got to know Coach a little bit. A few years ago, we used to have open gyms, and we would interact at these open gyms and shootouts and such. And, man, you want to talk about a person who just does things the right way. He works with these kids. He does a great job. I think this team is a group of fine young men. He took his group, which I wanted to talk to him about, taking his group up to Michigan. I know he's a Detroit guy himself, which, wow, I mean, what a city to come from in terms of the issues they've had over the years. But he's proud. He wears his Michigan and his Detroit gear and is quite vocal about that. But he took his team up there this past holiday break, and they played 3 games. And, I think when you do that, you're taking a little gamble. Hopefully this is a learning experience about yourself and as a team, and you want to draw from that tournament the rest of the year, or that trip for the rest of the year, so that you can, maybe gel and play to the best of your ability as the season goes on. So It'll be interesting to hear from him in terms of the impact. I mean, he probably could have scheduled a couple non-competitive games to beef up his win-loss record and make it get better when it comes to tournament time. Instead, he chose to go up there and play against a pretty competitive group of people.
Yes, he sure did. And we're looking forward to talking to him about that, and to Tim about that big Upper Arlington game, which everybody will know the result of. So we'll probably deal with that next week ourselves. But we've got that coming up. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll listen to our sponsor. And by the way, we want to make sure we thank them, Just Hoops. You'll see when you see the spot coming up, the facility that they use and the kind of drills they do. And it's worth taking a look at it. JustHoopsColumbus.com. We'll be back right after this. Thanks to Just Hoops for sponsoring our show today. With facilities in Lewis Center and Dublin, you can level up your game today on 22 different hoops. In February, Just Hoops introduces the all-new Class Pass. It's a structure that allows more classes, more flexibility, more opportunity, and more development. No hidden fees or long-term commitment. Grab your class pass and join the classes that work for you. Learn more at justhoopscolumbus.com. Welcome back to the show, and joining us again, we're glad he's here because we had him early on in our interview series, The Legends of Basketball in Central Ohio. So a legend that's still going and still getting it done, and putting big wins together already out at New Albany, head coach Tim Casey. And Coach, again, we talked to you early on. So we have to be part of the reason that you've had this great success so far this season. Have to, but I'm going to turn it to Ray so he can ask you a little bit about the specifics of what's been going on.
Well, let's see, Ray. I think we were both in it. How long? You were 36 and I'm 36 this year.
No. I'm going to give you. I sat there. This woke me up last night because you sat there and you told me this is going. I finished with 36 at Bobcat High at Grandview and one at the home of the Silver Knights, Bishop Reedy. So I had 37 under my belt, and this is your 36. And I believe, and this is going to pain me. Believe me, pain me to say this, that there's a chance that you could catch me this year. And again, I don't want to have any of the losses. Okay, to remember,
no.
I'm at 299, and that number 300 is way away from me right now. I do not want to add that to the win total and loss total as well.
Yeah, so, the number 300 to me was always like, hey, I'd like to stay in it long enough to get 300. So that tells you we stayed in it probably way too long, but
way too long. And I'm sure there's a group of people out there that believe that I stayed in it way too long. And I'm not sure if there is with you because, you being the warm and fuzzy guy.
I'm sure there's a group that will be in our gym on Tuesday night that thinks.
Well, we were going to get to that. I didn't want to go there right away. I thought I'd warm up to that.
Right.
But is that going to be at Eagle High or Golden Bear High?
That's at New Albany High School.
Oh, that's
we call it the Eagle's Nest, buddy.
Oh, the Eagle's Nest. Isn't that special? Yeah. I would have loved to seen that one be at Golden Bear. Just see how you felt walking out of the visitor locker room after all the years. That would have been an odd situation, I think. I mean, it's going to be odd to begin with.
Having my son there the last 2 years playing at UA, so I can tell you, I did not want to set foot in that gym ever again. But, like we all know, 95% of the people you dealt with over the course of your career were good people. And so it's been a little tough. I'm certainly not looking forward to this game from a standpoint of, competing against my own son and a lot of the players that I coached. But, it is what it is. Hey, it's part of life, man. Just like we say, hey, you can't control everything. And, some things happen for a reason. And I feel like I'm in a great situation in New Albany, and I'm looking forward to the challenge on Tuesday night.
That should be a great game. I mean, beside the fact that it's the Casey connection here, those are two good basketball teams going at each other Tuesday night at your place. Arlington's having a fine year. You're having a tremendous start to the season, 8-2. Just had a great win last night with Pick North. You got to feel great about this. What do you like, Tim, about your team and how it's changed? Because I know you and I spoke earlier this fall, and you had some concerns, and so some of these things might be getting ironed out right now.
Yeah, first and foremost, I really like our guys. They're good kids. They work hard. They're receptive. They're coachable. They're super invested in the game. I've got a lot of guys that, I think we work really hard in practice, day in and day out. And, I know a lot of them, hey, they leave practice and in fact, a couple of them, they'll leave our practice and go right to a trainer and, have another workout after practice. And, when you have guys that are super invested and really love the game, it's fun to coach. It's been good. It's a good group.
And you've mentioned this to me a million times, and it's stuck with me all the time. And it is great players love being coached. They want to get better, and they want to be coached hard. And when you said that about your team, that's got to be a real positive for you because you're that kind of guy. You'll ride them hard, but I mean, you do it in a positive way, but you're going to ride them hard and they're going to respond because your teams typically get better as the year goes on. And this team seems to be doing that.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt. My philosophy has always been, if I can be the hardest on the best players, then the rest of those guys can't say anything, as far as, so when I get
Yeah.
after them, and when you have the best player that wants to embraces being coached, and, it makes it special. Probably one of the best players I've ever coached was Kevin Vanetta. He was part of that 2014 team and
Right.
first team All State, and just a fantastic kid. But I would pull him aside sometimes and say, "I'm going after you today. Do you understand?" And I expect a response, and I expect a positive response. And he goes, "Hey, I got you, coach." And when I would get after him, everybody looking like, "Coach, he's working his ass off. He can't work any harder. Why are you yelling at him?" Because I can, and because he embraces it. Everybody else kind of raised their level as a result. And, that's what the good players really are all about.
Coach,
Okay.
as you look
So
at,
go
Ray was
ahead,
talking
Kevin.
about that really good win. I was just going to ask about, this year's team and what you like about them and how they have developed into this 8-2 squad.
Well, I mean, hey, let's not go crazy. We're off to a decent start. We still got a long season left, and we won some close games. Like last night was a close game. I mean, it was, we were up 5, 6, 7 early, and then, Marco got in foul trouble, so we had to sit him a majority of the end of the first quarter and most of the second quarter. And, they came back, and I think we went up 5 at half, and then he got another foul early. And so, I mean, it was close. I mean, it was really close. I felt like Pick North was desperate too. That's what made the win so special. They're number one, they're very talented. They have probably the best athlete in Central Ohio, Arness Lawson. He had 30 against Delaware. He had 30 last night against us. And honest to God, I felt like we did a good job on him. He's just so efficient and all of that. So, I like the fact that we're winning close games. I like the fact that we've gotten down a couple games and battled back and found a way to, kind of work to get the lead and then not give the lead back. I do think we're growing, but honest to God, we only have 2 guys that played a lot of varsity basketball last year. Um, One guy in our starting lineup who's averaging a double didn't even play basketball last year. And he's having a great year. And, some of our younger guys are really stepping up. So, yeah, I mean, it's like, Central Ohio basketball is very good. And not only is the basketball very good, but the coaches are really good. So every night is kind of a grind. And I just feel like, we're kind of embracing that. And, fortunately, we're in a good situation. But our guys know, hey, we don't bring it every day. Any team that we play on our schedule can beat us.
So where are you at with the league at this point? I know that you lost a close one earlier this year. You lost it. So I have you, by the way, in the Corbett poll, which is maybe the most influential poll in this country. All right, when it comes
Most
to
unscientific poll.
hey, we all have our ways of doing things.
Right,
Okay,
right.
Kevin. I just
But
want you to
we're
know.
promoting it for that very reason,
Yes.
right?
Well, hey, I disagree. I look at I've got my way of determining what a quality win. Like last night for him, that's a quality win against when you get yourself a team that's an outstanding program like Pick North, and you're able to beat them. That right there is pretty good. But Division II, you've got the league. So let's go with the league first. What does this do for you, Tim, when it comes to your league standings and such?
Well, I think we're at 3-1 with 1 game left in the first rotation with Westerville Central, who's not off to a great start, but has 2 really good players and some really good support guys. So they've had a little hard luck and haven't been able to win some close ones. But I think that'll round out. So I think there are 3 teams that are 3-1, and then maybe 3 teams that are 1-3 or 0-3
So
or
you've
something.
got what? Gehanna in your league,
Gehanna,
and they got you, correct?
they got us in overtime. Correct.
Was that at your place?
That was at Gehanna.
Okay. All right. All right.
These are the games, if you don't prevail, you learn from, you
Sure.
get better. I mean, I know Ray liked to play some pretty good teams, getting ready to take that challenge on. It's just part of the deal that you're probably not gonna win them all.
No, no, it's tough. It's tough to win, and it's just part of the process. And again, it's easy to say as an older coach. As a young coach, you used to rise and fall with every win and loss. And when you won, it was euphoric, and when you lost, it was almost, you couldn't get out of bed.
Yeah.
And you as you get older, you realize like, hey, it's one game, man. Do things the right way, and if then move on.
And you're right. This game, if you put more emphasis into this game, Tim, at least to me, what you're saying is what we are doing the other 19 weeks of the season, or whatever number of weeks we have in a basketball season, isn't right.
Right.
We're not doing what we should be doing, but we're going to do it this week.
Yeah.
Because this is Arlington.
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine that being you. Sorry to say.
It's not. In fact, after the game last night, everybody was asking me, hey, what do they got? What do they got? And obviously I've seen them play. I said, honestly, guys, I really don't know. I said, I make it a habit to never start breaking down the other team until until they're the next one up. So that's what we started to do last night, and I'm doing right now, and start to break them down.
The only thing I wanted to just go through with you briefly, because I know we touched on it before the show today, and that was the depth of your team getting a little bit stronger because of an injury. Could you talk about that just a little bit?
Sure. Our varsity is 11 guys, and honestly, all 11 could play minutes in a varsity game. Certain situations call for one, certain situations call for another. But I don't know. I think that's when you kind of recognize and realize you have a good program. When you look at the bench and hey, when called upon, those guys can contribute in a positive way. And we pride ourselves in really doing things the right way each and every day in the off season, skill development, and all of that stuff. So, I just feel like the depth is pretty good. And, would I hate to lose somebody again this year? Yeah, absolutely. But, given the situation, I think we could get by with a guy, one of our key guys, having to, sit out for a little bit, and think we could plug another guy in and not hopefully lose too much.
Well, I want to thank you today for stopping in to see us, because I know you are in prep for that big game against UA, and a lot of eyes will be on it to see how things go. And I can't imagine. I had 3, as play for Ray. I know how much I pulled hard for all 3 of them when they were playing. So it's going to be an interesting night, I know, for you, but I know you'll get the best out of both squads. So I hope it goes really well, whichever way you want it to go.
Yep. I appreciate it. I'm not going to lie. I want to win. I want my kid to do well, but hey, at his expense, dude.
Yeah.
He's going to have a rough one. He's got to know the old man still wired the right way.
He's not going to be surprised by that.
No. He's half nuts too. So we're wired a lot the same way.
I remember we talked about it.
Yeah.
He's half nuts. Well, let's be positive with you there, Timmy. Saying you're only halfway there.
I love the way he's wired.
That's great. Well, we hope it goes well for everybody, and everybody comes out safely out of that match. And I'm sure we'll talk to you again as we get toward playoff time, so we can take some more credit for how well you're doing. All right.
Anytime. Hey, let's keep it going. If we win on Tuesday, I expect a phone call sometime in the near future.
All right, man.
Okay, guys. Take care.
Thanks a lot. That's New Albany head coach Tim Casey. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back right after this.
Take care.
Welcome back, everybody. We've got another really good coach on the line right now, and we're talking to Ramon Spears. And Coach, you're in that tough city league, man, and it's like a battle every night. I'm gonna let Ray ask you about it, because I'm a little scared to talk about the competition. But Ray, again from Florida, now the sun is setting over the palm trees down there. But we're gonna let him let him ask the questions. All right, Hall of Famer, go get him.
Well, I almost saw a cloud today, Kevin. I just wanted you to be aware of that. I know that you guys and because the sun has gone down, I actually had to put on some slacks, pants.
Oh, that's
it gets a little cold when you get down here and you've been here for a little bit. And
I'll think of you when I'm
weather,
shoveling tomorrow morning. Yeah,
right. The 60-degree weather gets to you.
Yeah.
And I'm not golfing until Tuesday.
All right.
I won't golf until Tuesday. So,
all right.
Hey, Coach, thanks again for being here. Really appreciate it. You've had great success over the years at South and being a Bulldog. I was down at Worley Memorial there for a few years. And, I've been aware of South high school basketball for a long time. One of the greatest high school games I ever had the opportunity to watch was when Coach Dick Ricketts brought the Bulldogs over to Bishop Reedy when I was a youngster. And, man, you want to talk about a great, great game, great environment. South, to me, has always been a traditional power in the City League. Your team this year, you're 6-5. What are some things you want to tell me about this season or tell us about your year? What are some of the things you like about your group?
Well, we have a really, really good group of kids, right? Like just from off the court. Like this is a group that I don't have to do too much in the school with. Like they're on time, they're respectful. We got a couple of kids that drive, so their responsibility level is a little bit more. But I think that also plays a negative role in that mental toughness that I'm so used to having, because we just got a bunch of really good kids. Like, so I'd rather have a few little ones that's a little rocky, and then we'll play a little tougher. But just ask them as kids, as basketball players, as students, I got a really good group. I really like this group. I probably missed them a lot from a personal level.
Gotcha. So now, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you took your team up to Michigan, and I know that you went 1-2 up there. Did you see this still, even though you went 1-2 and such? Was this a positive experience for your group, you think?
Yeah, it was very positive. I'm from Detroit, born and raised in Detroit, so this was my first time since I coached high school basketball that I got a chance to go back and play in front of some of my friends and family, and then play some of the schools that my school, Detroit Southeastern, played when I was in high school there. So it was really big for me, and the kids bought into knowing, how important it was. We played our first school we played was Hamtramck, which is one of the top schools down in their conference. Played them really close at the beginning, fourth quarter, kind of when they blew it away. We was up at half by 11. I was more proud that just us coming down there, just getting off the bus and playing in a hostile environment where we had, maybe 5 fans there. So that was a win in its own self for us to play them and not back down. The second game we played was in a Christmas showcase against Redford, who was the host school, and they were really good. We wound up beating them probably by about 10 to make it to the championship game against South Lake Shore. And we lost by 1 point to South Lake Shore in the championship game.
So that's pretty solid competition, it sounds like.
Yes.
And so as you go forward, do you see some things that you can do that might allow you to get over the hump when you start? I mean, I know every game we talk all the time as coaches that every game's a tough task. We got to get prepared and be ready. But you've got in your division of the league, you've got Afrocentric, Walnut Ridge. Those are 2 really, really quality basketball programs. And, and you've played them both once so far. So you've got them both again, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So can you maybe, and I know that they might have been closer games and such, but can you close the gap on these guys and make a run because of this experience up in Michigan?
Yeah, I think the experience in Michigan let us know that we can play anywhere and against anybody, and we don't have to be at home. It was a stretch where we went to Cleveland on the Monday, and then the Thursday we were in Detroit, and then we played 3 games up there. So we've been on the road a lot, which I kind of like, to get you ready for Eastmore at home, get you ready for Afrocentric at home, and then get you ready for Walnut Ridge, at their place.
Right.
So we kind of been battle tested, is what they call it.
Yeah.
So when we go into those places, we should be okay.
Good.
Hey, Coach, how has the move to 7 divisions this year, how's that changed your outlook as you look down the road?
Coach, that's a really sticky question with me. Like,
and you know what? It has been for everybody we've asked about it. So
yeah. The one thing I hate the change in the division, actually, because this was the first year that we were going to get back to original Division II. If it would have stayed 4, we always get counted extra kids from charter schools. So I'm never really going to be happy with the division unless they go back to the 4 divisions and we stay in Division II, where we only
go ahead.
We only have 200. Yeah, we only have 200 and something boys, what makes us a solid Division II school. But then when you add 75 charter school kids that don't even go to our building, don't play sports or whatever, then that takes us up to that next level. So it's always been a sticky conversation with me. So I'm not happy whether it's the 7 divisions or the 4 divisions until they take away the charter school kids from the CCS, basically.
Has there ever been any discussion about that?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, they had a discussion about it. It was around the time COVID, around that time, and they had a discussion.
Was SAG involved in that? Okay.
Yes, that's the time that a bunch of the City League coaches and Zach Fleer went down to the board meeting and explained to them about this situation. And then they made a change that year or whatever. But ever since then, we're getting counted for kids that go to charter schools and their home address is just say South High School.
Yeah.
And I can tell you this, in my 14 years, I have not had one kid that went to one of those charter schools come and play sports for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting when we look at the decision to go 7 from the viewpoint of Ohio High School.
Mm-hmm.
I always think there's alternative motives here, and I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to be common sense. Why would they do something like that? And the gap between like the battle Division I for years had 200 schools, and the range of kids was a huge gap between the largest and the smallest in that Division I range. So I sort of understood that, but now 1 and 2 both are at 64.
Yeah.
And then the other schools have all drifted down, and every other division smaller. But somewhere, I wonder, is there something in there about the private kid and their schools? Because, for a long time, the public schools were threatening to sue Ohio High School because they said, hey, these private schools have an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about, okay, they have an advantage. Well, then you guys, it appears, based on what you're just saying, have a huge disadvantage.
Right.
Because you're sitting there counting kids that aren't active in your building in any shape or form. So the cards are stacked in some respects against you guys ever being able to compete at a level playing field, it sounds like.
Yeah, I don't think that enough people care enough. I think once the rule is written, it's an old, outdated rule. And I think at that time it might have probably been, and I don't know, I'm just speculating, maybe one, if that charter school. Now there's 15 charter schools on the South Side,
That's
you
true.
know,
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
right. And now by this antiquated rule we still obeying by, it's not looking at the change in or the fluctuation in kids going to charter schools now and not playing sports, but the boy number and then they're just taking a estimate of numbers. I don't even know if they could tell me, give me all the names and say, here's the 55 boys that go to that goes to South as their home school, and here's their number, and let me call. It might be a 6'8" kid in there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But coach, I say this all the time. I doubt it very seriously, because if he was 6'8" and he wasn't trying to play sports or reaching out to the school, then he don't play anyway.
Yeah.
That's
You may be right. But let's talk about those guys that are there this year. Talk about
Okay.
the team a little bit, and if when we come down to see y'all play, what are we going to look for?
So we got two transfers in. One came from Mifflin, and one came from Man Franklin, that came in and actually starting for us. That helps us considerably. We lost 5 starters last year on the team that went 14-0 in the City League last year. It was the first time since 1942 South has done it. We have played Walnut Ridge very close, losing at the end at home. And then we just played Afrocentric 2 weeks ago, which we played them really close, but losing at the end. I think a lot of inexperience late in the game is where we lacking. So we have to get better at that late game scenarios, understanding what you might have done in the first and second quarter. You cannot do that with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So just understanding the possession. And I always say, because I'm a football guy, I always say the down and the distance, but understanding those things.
And what do you want to, obviously making the trips that you have, which by the way are awesome for the kids to be able to play in those different places like that. And those that will go on and play maybe at the next level, that'll be invaluable to them. But what do you think you're looking to improve upon, even though you've played really well, but what would you like to see? Maybe it is that end game strategy or that end game performance, but is there a part of the game that you're working on as you come down to the second half here?
Yeah. Getting back to that South High grit, like getting that South High mentality that a lot of my programs have had, and a lot of my teams have had, and we just have to get back to that or get to that, But that starts in practice, and that starts taking things a little bit more serious, instead of just playing basketball, taking it, as a game that we playing for not only ourselves, but our community. A lot of people, after work, this is their life on the South Side. It's coming to watch a basketball game and putting a product out there where people leave that wants to come back to the next game is what I strive to do. And I think us playing a little more harder and a little more smarter will put us in that situation when people leave, they'll be satisfied.
Now, Coach, I've got an idea for you. I think if you were to take the keys from those young men who are driving your other guys around, you harden them up a little, because if they start walking to school in the snow, that could be a benefit for you and the program. So,
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I get it.
Yeah, we're both sounding like the 60-year-old men that we are, Ray.
So, Coach, we talked to Chad a tad there about the tournament, and we're looking at the draw is going to be February 9th and such. But when I look at your Division 3, wow! I mean, it is that's a challenge. It's a gauntlet to get through that division this year.
Yeah.
We got 17, I believe, 17 teams in there, and when I go through the records, and I look, first of all, you got the 3 CCL teams, and they've got a combined, I think, 3 losses between the 3 of them, and one of them just beat the other one last night.
Right.
Hartley Watterson, and Coach Vince over there at Watterson does a whale of a job. So that Hartley team must be for real. And DeSales, I saw them a little bit last year. I saw Walnut Ridge. I know the quality that they are. Then you throw in a 10-1 Hamilton Township. Granville is getting better and better. It seems like all year. They're up to 7-2. I mean, they're just. Oh, I forgot. Centennial's only 9-2 right now. Place in the north, it appears. That's quite a gauntlet to go against. Hopefully, you get 2 teams out, and you're able to get a good draw and make a run here.
I sure miss Buckeye Valley and and Lakewood. Where are they at, Coach? They not on that list?
Let's see here.
Bexley. Where's that Division 2 list at?
The Division 2 is not out either. I'm not sure what division.
I'm talking about the past Division 2 schedules, not this one. The one before the 7 league.
Yeah. Division 7 this year.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it almost reminds me of the change in like they did with the Big Ten, like Ohio State and Michigan. I don't want to see them play twice. Oregon and Ohio State, I didn't want to see them play twice. So like I don't want to see Walnut Ridge twice, or it'd be 3 times. I don't want to see them 3 times. I barely want to see them twice. They so good. And then like you said, the Centennials, I definitely the Watersons. I don't even like talking to Coach Lombardo. I get nervous just talking to him. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, dude, no, he can't be that way.
Yeah, I get, just thinking about playing them. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, like you said, it's a gauntlet.
Make you play D forever.
Yes, it's a gauntlet, and just thinking about it, like I'm so happy I have time that we still have 11 games left in our season where we can get our seeding better, and then we could hopefully we can get in that top group where we can get some home games.
There you go. Now you've got a relatively newer facility, correct? You're not playing on the City League had some strange gymnasiums. When I was growing up, we played on the stage at East High School. All right. And then right next door to us was West. And I'm not even sure if you can even call that a gym. That little cracker box, that was scary. That was scary back in the 70s. I can't imagine what it's like now. Mifflin was a mess. Even then, we scrimmaged at Mifflin a few years back when Coach Manguette was there, and I walked in there, and I'll never forget when I was a senior in high school, we scrimmaged there, and I looked around, and I go, Coach, your gym hasn't changed. Now I understand that they've improved that facility quite a bit.
Yes.
Have they done the same for the Bulldogs?
Yeah. So our building now, they changed it in 2010. Was the last time they played on the stage. So it's a newer facility with the gym. The gym is pretty nice. It's now, excuse me?
Is it East High School caliber? I mean, East, beautiful facility.
No, it's not as big as East. We have 2 facilities, though. We have 2 gyms, but in separate areas, but we do have 2 gyms, but it's not as big and as long as East is. But I'm happy and content with the facilities there. Yeah.
Although
Yeah.
there was some advantage. I broadcast Zanesville games for a while and did games at both East and South. And, those teams had some advantages with that. I mean, because they knew where to be with those double, half court lines and all the stuff. And they used it to their advantage. I mean, it was awesome to watch.
Yeah, and then you could pressure them to be by the sideline, by the stage, so people were scared to fall off the stage.
Yeah, they
so
were.
you just you push them to the sideline a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like a highlight court out there, man. It was crazy. So, well, I want to thank you for coming on with us today. We know that you're probably getting ready for the next go round. We try to catch people, early before they get onto their week, but we know it's always pressure filled. So again, thank you for coming on. And on behalf of my late father, thank you for wearing that Tigers hat.
Go Tigers.
He'd be very happy about that.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, Ray.
You, Kevin, I won't say much.
Yeah, I understand. But hey, thanks a bunch. Good luck to you. We're gonna see you. Either we'll be doing a story or getting some video, or maybe hopefully doing a live stream of a game. We would love to do that. So, we'll talk to you soon about it.
All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Hey, Coach, appreciate it big time, buddy. Good luck.
Go Blue. Take care.
All right.
Thanks to Just Hoops for sponsoring our show today. With facilities in Lewis Center in Dublin, you can level up your game today on 22 different hoops. In February, Just Hoops introduces the all-new Class Pass. It's a structure that allows more classes, more flexibility, more opportunity, and more development. No hidden fees or long-term commitment. Grab your Class Pass and join the classes that work for you. Learn more at justhoopscolumbus.com. Welcome back to the show. It's our weekly check-in with the founder and the big kahuna at 270 Hoops, Zach Fleer. And Zach, I know this week that you want to turn the tables just a little bit and talk about tournament and get into a coach's head about some things. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and along with thanking you for joining Ray and me, you have the floor to talk to the Hall of Famer.
It's a privilege and an honor. Appreciate you guys inviting me onto this podcast. But so I've been looking, it's never too early to start thinking about the tournament with, season about halfway through. I've started to look at the district tournament. And for those that, have lived under a rock, we're 7 divisions now in Ohio from the 4 that we had been for the previous however many years. Because of that, the district tournament has changed drastically in Central Ohio, especially at the divisions 1 and 2 level. In D1, there are 6 district championship games now. And 4 of those district champions will stay in Columbus. The other 2 will go to the Dayton Regional to take on teams from Dayton, Cincinnati area. Couple things that I want to talk to Coach Ray about, because, he's Hall of Famers, won however many, 400, 500 plus games. Coach, if you were a coach of maybe an Olentangy Orange, Olentangy Liberty, or Reynoldsburg, a team that's going to be a top 1 or 2 seed, and if you look at the Division I bracket with those 6 districts and only 22 teams, there are 2 lines on the bracket where you take a bye and you go straight to the district finals. You don't even play a home playoff game. You're going right there, at the fairgrounds, playing the first game in 10 years at that facility. If you were a coach of one of those teams, would you take a bye straight into the district finals, or would you rather choose to, we're going to play at home, we're going to get some momentum going into the district finals? What would you do, you think, if you were in the head spot, if you were Anthony Kalo or Andy Moore or Greg Nossaman, and that was your program and you had an opportunity to do that? What do you think you would do?
Well, like I said, or I guess when I first got into coaching, I had a full head of hair. And as you see, that's not the case anymore. And those kind of decisions are the ones that can haunt you, or that really you lose a lot of sleep thinking about, because there's so many different variables. One, are you playing well at that time of the year? Do you have injuries at that time of the year where you might need some time off? I always, I went to an academy one time over in Bloomington, and Coach Knight was talking, and he said, well, I just don't trust kids. And I sat there and he brought up 2 All-Americans and asked the boys, do I trust you? And they both shook their heads. No, Coach, you don't trust us. And, So like it's nice to be able to have that seed that takes you all the way to the district final. I mean, what a carpet ride you have. But if you're playing well, and as the number 1, 2, 3, whatever seed you are, there's not going to be a lot of people that want to get on board. And having the opportunity to play a couple games at home just to keep you going. I know this. It's extremely challenging for coaches to be able to, at least it was for me. I can't say for everyone in the world, but it was for me to, if you have 2 weeks off after going through a 22 game regular season and putting the brakes on it and saying, okay, now we're going to try to have meaningful practices for 2 weeks. Good luck. That's hard. That's hard.
This year, so I don't know if you've seen the bracket. So there's 22 teams. The last Friday of OCC league play is February 21st, and then the district finals is the following Saturday, March 1st. So if you were to do that, there's only one game before the district finals. So the district semis are at the highest. It's the new first round district semis are at the highest seeded team. So if you were to take that play and say Olentangy Orange's last game is on that Friday, you could have a bye, so then you don't play again until the following Saturday, or you play that first Wednesday, I think the 27th. That would be the scenario here where you only get one game off and, you're going to play 8 days later after your final game. Do you still think that's too long of a break? Because you got to think about it. It's 20, you're going to get a district champion, district finalist level team that's going to face you in that first game. You think it would be smarter then to, play that first round game, get some momentum, and then go into that game on Saturday, or, just take the break?
So now there's only two. The way I look at that is, I think that I might take that bye. I might take the bye. And the reason I might do that is, say you play a Friday, you take Saturday, Sunday off, you give you guys off a couple days. Then you come in, you practice your Monday, Tuesday. They're playing on Wednesday. You take that Wednesday off. Now, Thursday, Friday, you're prepping for them. And your kids should be relatively fresh because you had that Wednesday off. That would be the way I'd form my schedule right there. I'm not asking for 5 straight days of practice. And again, some coaches, it's built in. That's what they do. That time of the year, you're in March, late February, March. I think having a short day or no day at all on Wednesday, let the kids just get away from it after a day of school, which they hadn't done in 3 or 4 months. That may not be a bad thing, and you get them a chance to refresh. Now, the alternative, once again, is, hey, we're playing well. Let's play this one. Let's keep it going. But now you're coming back, and think about this. You're playing on a Wednesday night, and say it's a team that is – maybe they're the 20th seed, all right? Maybe they're the 20th seed that you're playing. So you go out and you win by 25. But even then, you haven't concentrated on your fundamentals as much maybe that week. And then you come in Thursday, now you've got a challenge. How much juice do those kids have in them after playing a Wednesday game? And so you got to back off a tad, maybe Thursday. Then you're going to have a game Friday or Saturday. Are you going to go? How hard are you going to go then? So by doing it with the bye week or bye date, I should say, I would go hard Monday, Tuesday, take Wednesday off, go hard Thursday. So that gives me 3 really good days of prep. And then, Friday, you might be able to spend more time prepping for that particular opponent. So I think I would take the bye based on these circumstances.
And what's really interesting about Division I, especially this year, is because there's 6 district champions. In the past, we would only have one D1 team that could make it to the state tournament. Now, because you have 2 of your district champions going to Dayton for the regional, there's a very good possibility we could have, 2 Central Ohio teams in the state Final Four, which is, as far as I know, I don't think that's ever happened before, in this new format. Before it was, 1A, 2A, AAA. An interesting part about that is if you look at the bracket, so the 2 bye spots, the first one's on the top of the bracket. And then if you go to the top of the bracket, you're in Central 1, you're playing your district final on Saturday at 10 a.m. Then you would play, in the regional tournament locally. If you take the other bye, that's at the very bottom of the bracket. That's on your district finals on Sunday at 6 p.m., which is, I don't know, it might throw off the rhythm because most teams don't play on Sunday nights. But then you have to go to Dayton for your regional. So you're playing at Wittenberg against the Southwest Ohio team, who's probably going to have, more fan base. I think that makes it interesting. Like it kind of, I wish they would have put those buys maybe in the more attractive district final spots. Because if you've especially studied like the D1 district tournament draws the last several years, the team that's the 1 seed typically chooses that third district final game on Saturday, like the 6 p.m. tip off. If you do choose the bye, you're either playing Saturday morning or you're playing Sunday night. Do you think that would factor into a coach's decision to take that bye there?
I'll go with the first one here because I'm not smart enough to follow every one of your curves you just threw me. Okay, so that being playing home versus playing on the road. So playing in the Coliseum, I believe, is where the regional will be for them versus going to the wonderful world of Wittenberg and being basically the opponent on the road in that. I would do anything I could possibly do. If I felt I was the best team in Central Ohio, I'm staying here. And I'm going to make you come into my place basically and beat me. If I really felt that strongly. If I felt like, hey, I looked at Dayton and believe me, these guys, they act like, oh, we haven't talked about this. We haven't looked at it. When we were coaching, come January, I was making road trips down to Athens, and I was watching the teams down there. I was watching the teams when Lachey and Collier, when they were there, and we got beat by COVID in the regional finals. I had seen all the top teams that were scheduled to go to Dayton, as well as the top teams that were scheduled to go to OU. And I sat with my staff and said, all right, there's 4 here that I think are quality opponents, but in this region, there's only 1. I want to go towards the 1. And that's the route we took. And so you've got to determine based on your opponents in those regions, which one you want to play, if you believe you're going to get out of the district. So I think that's the number one. That's the number one concern. Playing in a friendly park or an unfriendly park, okay, I like it if it's my home, but going to Wittenberg and playing there, first of all, these guys how many of these guys have been out of town to play major tournaments this winter? A lot of them. So they're somewhat used to that. So especially more so maybe at the D1 level than the other divisions.
Yeah, Olentangy Orange went up to Cleveland and beat St. Ignatius in overtime just like a week or so ago. So
right,
I think it really depends like what that 1 seed does. Because I think if everything shakes out the way it's supposed to be, Reynoldsburg and Olentangy Orange, those are your 1. Whoever you want to choose is 1, and then the other 2. Do you think though, like the game times would factor into that decision though? Like, as a coach, would you want your kids playing that Saturday 10 a.m. or the Sunday night, or would you rather choose that, Saturday night or Saturday late evenings tip off?
I'd like to stay as close to the norm as possible, but again, let's just think about how many of these kids have played AAU ball.
That's true, yeah.
And they're playing 4 games on Saturday. They're playing. So they're playing all the time. And I also think that coaches are smart enough to know that, hey, if we're going to do this and we have this option later on in the season, maybe they set it up that they're doing scrimmages, whatever it might be, in the morning so they can get their kids a little bit used to it. They don't want them to be like, we got our kids up every morning of game day. Every time we had a morning game, every time we had a game, even if we had school, that's probably the greatest thing that happened to those kids when I retired was they were able to sleep in. I don't know what Coach Coloni does, but we had a walkthrough at 7:15 on game day even if we had school. I just don't like kids not getting up in the morning and getting the cobwebs and getting out there moving a little bit. And so we did that. I just think there's things we can do as coaches to make that not nearly as big a deal as you might think.
And I'd like to let me just throw in real quick.
Yeah.
As a parent of 3 of his players, they did not mind the donuts, though they came along with it.
We did provide bagels and juice.
My kids like to shoot free throws because I think they wound up those walkthroughs with free throws. They didn't mind that at all. Sorry, Zach, I didn't mean to step on you.
No, you're good. In Division II, there's every other division like D3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They all have 2 district tournament or 2 district championship games. So it's all normal in every other division. Division 2 is quite interesting though. You have, it's 20 teams. Yeah, 20 teams. You have 20 teams. You have 5 district championships. What's going to make being a top 4 seed very vital is that 5th district tournament or 5th district championship game is 2 days after the second latest game. So in Division II, you have district championship games on the 28th or 27th at like 6 and 8, so Thursday night. Then on the 28th, you have 2 more district championship games on the Friday night. If you get in that 5th district tournament bracket or pod or whatever you want to call it now, your game's not till Sunday afternoon. The interesting part about that is every single regional game, even if you play Thursday or Friday night, is on Wednesday. But if you get in that 5th district championship game, you're playing Wednesday, but you're playing all the way up in Worcester, and it's an 8 p.m. tip-off game. If you're a D2 coach and you're in that range of like seed, 5 through 9, do you think those coaches, you think they're going to take that opportunity? Hey, we're going to be the top seeded team in this district. We got a chance to win a district championship, but we don't play till Sunday, and then we only have 2 days of prep before we got to go all the way up to Worcester and play in a regional game.
Well, I think I'm going to go with as much time to prepare as I can. All right. And now, how about the team out of the Worcester that I'm going to be facing? Are they going to be having the same situation that I have? Is their region or district going to be determined on that Sunday night like mine is? Or do they get, Central Ohio traditionally has been one of the craziest tournament draws. We always seem like we had a week extra that the state didn't have, and then our games would be decided and they're still playing here or vice versa. So I would look to see if the other team that's going to Worcester that I'm going to face, whether they're going to have the same amount of prep time as I would have, because it doesn't matter how many days of prep the other 4 schools have. The other 4 champions, what matters is the guy that I'm opponent or my opponent in the regional semis.
I'm trying to look that up. The CDAB does an incredible job of like getting all of their stuff put out there. You go to some of the other district athletic boards, they don't have all the information. So I was just looking at the Northeast Athletic Board. They don't have the dates of those games yet. So it remains to be seen, but I teach at Northland, and Northland's probably going to be in that range of being like 4 through 6. So I've already asked Coach Johnson, like, what do you guys think you're going to do? He's like, oh, we got to get a top 4 seed. We want to play in town. We're not trying to go out of town. So I think that could be interesting, though, if teams run away from that 5th division. You could end up having, a couple teams that maybe don't traditionally compete for a district championship that'll get an opportunity. Last thing I'll ask about the tournament. Do you think only having to win 1 game to get to a district championship, or even getting a bye to get to the district championship, do you think it devalues just what it means to be a district champion? Like, in the past where you got to win at least 3 games to get there.
Well, everybody gets to go to McDonald's, right? We get our Happy Meal and everybody's warm and fuzzy. It's interesting. I've talked to a couple coaches, and I think this goes back. We could start back when, hey, let's go watch Hoosiers when they only had 1 in Indiana and Kentucky. And, that's the way it was. And then I went to Bishop Reedy. Of course, we used to whoop on West all the time. But anyways, that's another story. But when we went to Reedy, there were 3. And for the first time, Division II came about, and Reedy happened to be back-to-back 72-73 champions. So I sat there and looked at that, and I said, okay, now don't tell any of those kids that the championship they won isn't real, or those coaches. Now, we go from 3 to 4. I didn't think that was a big deal, but I always wondered, being from Ohio and knowing that Ohio is a football state, I was like, my lordy, 7 brackets. That's crazy. How could they have 7 brackets in this sport? Everybody's going to be, everybody's a state champion. And then Ohio turns into, we convert and turn basketball from 4 to 7. So I know I'm long-winded in this. I could tell you this. I don't think the guys D1. Now I'm sorry. The guys in D5. When I look at that bracket and say 2 teams are getting out, that's a gauntlet. Yes. I don't care how many games you play. You're going to have to beat somebody, either district semis or district finals. That's really, really good. State caliber type of competition. Harvest Prep, Afrocentric, Academy, and Reedy. Those 4 teams are outstanding, these small school teams.
And then you have Fairbanks who's 12-1. They're in that group.
Well, you got Fairbanks, Fredericktown. I mean, there's some teams in here that are just outstanding, and they're not getting 5. They're not getting 5 district champions. You've got 64 teams in D1, and you get 1 game to get out.
Yeah.
Now that right there, and I guarantee you, there's a coach that's going to be hanging a banner saying we're district champs. They don't care. They hang a banner.
Yeah, my Central Crossing Comets can celebrate. We made it to our first district semifinal this year.
I could give you another story about Coach Bates and his tennis program at Afrocentric. That was one of the all-time classics, but that's another one. But you're right. But that's what it's about. Teams, like you said, that may not have a chance, who may not have had a chance in the past, will get a chance, and they're going to be on the. They might make it, have a game or two where in basketball, strange things happen. You make a couple shots, kids are goofy. They start feeling good about life.
It's just kind of interesting that it coincides right with the college football playoff expanding, and you getting teams like Indiana and SMU in the playoff. And then
I'm an Indiana grad. So be careful now.
I didn't.
I love Kurt Signetti. I thought it was how ESPN roasted him losing by 10 to the team in the national championship game.
Yeah, right. Now,
on the road,
their only 2 losses this year came to the 2 teams that are playing in the final.
Right, and they wanted to say they weren't good enough. And
do I have to listen? I just had my breakfast for the second time listening to the 2 of you. I mean. Win something before you open your mouth at IU.
That's all. Hey, you went over to listen to Coach Knight. Now stop. All right.
He won something. When I went to his academy, he had won the Olympic, the Pan American, and NCAA. He was red hot.
You're preaching to the choir, brother. So I get it.
Now, we don't want to talk about Indiana basketball right now.
Yeah. Well, that's like, they played Illinois not very well this week. So I keep up on it. All right. But before we let you go, Zach, this week, what do we got as the big matchups? What are you looking forward to this weekend?
Friday night, big-time battle for first place in the OCC Central. Olentangy Orange going on the road to take on rival Olentangy Liberty. Both teams are, I think, 7-0 in the OCC. So that's going to be that game's already intense because those teams hate each other. But you got first place on the line. It's also going to have a pretty big impact for that district tournament draw because I don't think they will play again before the draw. I think their next game will be, after the draw. So it's going to be a pretty big game. If Liberty wants to get seeded with those elite teams, they got to get a win at home. I saw these 2 teams play in this matchup 2 years ago. Liberty beat an undefeated Orange team up to that point. So we'll see if they can return the favor again. But I'm excited about that. You got Flying to the Hoop going on this weekend in Kettering. So if, local basketball fans want to catch some teams from all over the country against the best of the best from the area, definitely go down to that. But there's also a battle in the 614 at Ohio Dominican.
Yep, that's
I'll be there Saturday and Sunday. So catching some of those teams, some of those D5 teams that we just talked about, Harvest Prep, Afrocentric, I'm going to go catch those teams on Saturday and Sunday. And yeah, it's going to be fun. And then, I get a 5-day weekend from teaching. So get to watch the Buckeyes play the national championship on Monday night and then not have to go back to work till Thursday. So it's pretty nice.
That'll be a long night one way or the other, right?
That's correct.
All right.
You
And by the way,
teachers
Indiana's
have such a
not
small
playing.
schedule.
Yeah.
We do. I cannot lie. We do.
Yeah. All right, guys. All right. Hey, thanks, Zach. We appreciate, and as we get closer to that, well, actually, after the draw, we'll talk a lot about that too. And, the best pathways to get where people want to go. And next week, we'll talk maybe a little bit about what happened this Friday and over the weekend to some of these teams that we've been talking about. So thanks for taking the time. Thanks for turning the table a little bit. We learned a lot from Coach there. And, again, it explains the hair and hats and, whatever else we got to wear. So anyway, take care this week and we'll look to talk to you next week.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Thank you, Zach. Appreciate it, buddy.
See you.
Well, Ray, we did it. We got through a couple of coaches and Zach, although Zach wanted to talk to you today. So that I like that, to be honest. He had some good questions for you about the tournament. But before we go, first of all, just say a couple of words about our coach guests, because I thought they were outstanding today.
Well, again, I have, we started the podcast this summer and with our interviews, our conversation with legends, and we've had now 4 coaches on both programs. We've had 2. And I mean, I think there's a lot of people who should be very thankful for the people that have coached their kids. Coach Spears, Coach Casey, just outstanding guys. Yeah. They really are. And I know that you don't always get as many shots for your kid or as much time playing as you want, but the overall growth of your child being under their leadership just has to be, again, Coach Knight used to say the basketball court was his classroom. And I think these guys are a perfect example of being professors when it comes to dealing with their players and their programs.
Well, and you know what? I don't want to kiss up too much, but, one of mine went on to a career in basketball after playing for you. So I get that. I don't want to blow too much sunshine, though, because you kind of went after my college football team. So I'm just going to leave it right there. All right.
Hey, at least I didn't score with 10 seconds left to go. Because we are Ohio State, the Ohio State.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Hey, and Zach, that was fun, right? I mean,
I loved it.
I saw you talked about tearing your hair out, and I could tell you were starting to experience that kind of, this is the kind of
that was something that we sat there, and my philosophy changed over the years, and whether or not to take the early game. And then you sit there and say, okay, what if we get somebody hurt? And you finally just say, you know what? Hey, if we get hurt, we get sick, whatever, then it's just not meant to be. Let's go after it and let's keep playing as much as we can. Because the kids, believe me, as good at coaches as we might think we are, kids want to play versus practice.
Yeah.
70, 80, let's make that 99% of the time.
Yeah, no, without a doubt.
Let's do what they want to have done.
Yeah, no, I think that makes great sense. Okay, before we go, let's take a look and see, has your view of these teams changed given some of the results that we saw since you and I last talked?
Well, I've got the, I'm not sure. I know that the late, great John Madden had the turkey legs for Thanksgiving. I'm trying to figure out what I can do to the 7 teams that win the Corbett poll at the end of the year. I'm not sure. On the other hand, I might be a little healthier. I might have to call out a couple restaurants in the Grandview area to see if we can get some sponsorship. I could see some donuts being delivered to the players. Something that would be substantial and important for them.
And we've got a great trophy company here in Grandview.
We do.
And we might build them about that high, but we could, we can figure something out.
We got to come up with something to be the champions of the Corbett poll. What a prestigious title to have going for you. I just can't imagine anything more important. But anyway, let's go D1.
Yeah.
D1, we've got still Olentangy Orange. They're my number 1. In Reynoldsburg last night, what a phenomenal win when they took on Newark and beat them. All right, so they are my number 2. Liberty's moved up to 3. Delaware Hayes playing extremely well at 8-2 is 4. Newark 5. We moved to D2. Westerville North. They're the leaders. New Albany's now moved up to number 2 at 9-2.
Yep.
We've got Big Walnut, Licking Heights, and Northland round up the top 5. Now, here we go. Last weekend, Hartley beat Watterson. So that gave them the number 1. Watterson's 2. DeSales and Watterson play this weekend. Love the CCL that right now. So that'll determine who's going to be directly below Hartley. Walnut Ridge is 10-3, and Hamilton Township is 11-1 as the D3s. The D4, Heath, and we're going to have Coach Falk on this weekend for next week's show. They're 11-1. They're my number 1. River Valley at 8-2. East out of the City League. London and Jonathan Alder rounds it off. Jonathan Alder's 9-3, right on London's heels.
You always wanted to play Jonathan Alder. That was one of your usual non-conference games, man.
That was a rough week for me. Johnny Alder I started at Johnny Alder, and so that one got my attention. And they were always such a quality opponent.
Oh, sure.
Coach Hamlin out there, he did a phenomenal job.
Always a lot of pressure on the ball. That's what I remember. Yeah.
So here we go. Number 5, D5. I still have the Vikings of Academy. They got Reedy this weekend, and they got them by 2 on a last-second layup in overtime. So we got Academy. I moved Afrocentric up. That's a tough call. It's a flip of the coin between actually for all 4 of these teams. I mean, they're all outstanding. Afrocentric, Reedy at 13-1, Harvest Preps 9-5. But again, extremely challenging schedule. And then 12-1 Fairbanks.
Yeah.
All right. Division 6. Cardington right now seems to be the cream of the crop. 10-2. And they've beaten some quality people. Then we have some interesting. We got Grove City Christian at 6-4. We've got Grandview. Believe it or not, maybe I'm a loyalist here, but they're 5-8. I've got them, but they play this weekend Tree of Life, who's 8-1.
Yeah,
we'll see. That'll be a great game for both those schools to find out where they're at in the D6. And then Centerburg rounds it up. And finally, D7. I got Patriot Prep and Shekinah Christian. We're going to have Keith Lambert from Shekinah on this week. But we've got Prep at 9-4. We've got Shekinah 9-1. 2 very quality teams. Fisher Catholics 9-2 out of the Mid-State Cardinal. Morrill Ridgedale 8-2, and then Northside Christian, another team out of the Christian League, at 8-3. So those are the teams that we have rated at this point.
On their way to the small trophies.
The small, either that
or donuts, either one.
I like the donut idea or something similar to that. I got to find myself a Jolly Pirate or somebody who wants.
Well, we've got some good donuts in Grandview. We can figure that out.
We do. Yeah. Stacy might be getting a phone call.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. DK, yeah.
I don't know if the DK can handle 7 squads, though. That's quite a few donuts.
We're going to figure it out. I think that's our first go-to. But, hey, so I think the 2 intriguing teams to watch, because we just don't see them a lot, they're kind of on the outskirts of the district, are that Hamilton Township squad and that Fairbanks squad. I don't know that we know yet, but I think that's worth keeping an eye on, are the ones. I mean, we all know the big ones, the guys that are there every year.
Correct.
I'm just kind of interested to see where this kind of plays out there. So
Hartley
you brought them up.
Hartley took it to Hamilton the first when they played each other.
That's their one loss.
That's the one loss right there.
Okay.
And again, Hartley, I've heard nothing but unbelievable, describing them. They're big time. Well, and they're not, they got Olentangy Orange on their schedule. So they're playing some people.
Well, that's how you get ready, I guess. We did it again, man. Week 2 in the books.
Right.
Okay, man. Well, I'll tell you what, you're coming back this way, I know. So we'll have you back in town for the next one. I'm sorry. It's only getting colder, man.
I will not be in shorts and this particular shirt at about 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
No, you will not. And you will not see any green on the golf course like you did yesterday. So no.
No, I won't. But I
No, you
will
won't.
see the Battle of the 614 because I'm going to be up there on all 3 days. So
Yeah,
I
you know
get a
what?
chance.
Check on our friends over at Yamo Media because Ray's going to be working. I hope, right? I mean, that's the
Yes, I'm
plan.
working the last 3 games of all 3 nights.
Okay.
So I'm excited as can be.
Well, that'll be live streamed, and go over to our friends again, Adam Dell and Yamo Media over there. Check them out. Ray will be working those last 3 games each night. So do what you can. I'll be listening in for sure, man. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll announce down the road if we can do, you and I can do some games coming down the stretch here. So
Sounds good.
Yeah, we're going to see if we can put that together. That'll be a lot of fun. So that's it for this week, folks. Ray, thanks. Safe travels. And we'll talk next week. Bye, everybody.
Take care.